Welcome in pediatric lecture series. In this lecture, we are going to see the cardiac diseases, that is the congenital heart diseases. These will be divided into two parts. First will be the embryology of heart, anatomy of heart, physiology of heart, that is fetal and neonatal circulation, and some of the congenital heart diseases or cyanotic heart diseases. In second lecture, there will be the cyanotic congenital heart diseases will be discussed. In this first part, first we see the embryology of heart. In human embryos, the heart begins to beat at the age of 22 to 23 days with blood flow beginning in the fourth week of life. The heart is therefore one of the earliest differentiating and functioning organ in the human body. Heart begins very early in mesoderm within a trilaminar embryonic disc. Heart forms initially in the embryonic disc as a simple paired tube inside the forming pericardial cavity, which when the disc folds gets carried into the correct anatomical position in the chest. Development of the heart begins with the formation of primitive heart tubes following the folding of embryo during the end of third week. Lateral folding creates the heart tubes by bringing together two precursors region, then cephalocaudal findings the heart tube in the future thorax. Initially, the heart tube is suspended within the pericardial cavity by a membrane, and this subsequently degenerates to allow the further growth. From superior to inferior, the primitive heart tube is comprised of six regions. First is the arterial poles or aortic roots. Second one is the truncus arteriosus. Third one is the bulbus cordis. Fourth is ventricle. Fifth is atrium. And sixth is venous poles, that is the sinus venosus, which are shown in this figure. Now we will see one by one these six organs. First one is the atria. At the fourth week, the sinus venosus is responsible for the inflow of blood to the primitive heart, and it empties into the primitive atrium. This atrium receives the venous blood from right and left sinus horns. Over time, the venous return shifts to the right side of the heart, causing left sinus horn to recede and form the coronary sinus, which is responsible for drainage of venous blood from the heart itself. The enlarged right sinus horn is absorbed by the growing right atrium and eventually form part of the inferior vena cava in the adult. In the left atrium, similar process occurs which forms the pulmonary veins in adult. The four pulmonary veins are incorporated into the left atrium, forming the smooth inflow portion of the left atrium and oblique pericardial sinuses. Now aortic arches. The early arterial system begins as a bilaterally symmetrical system of arch vessels, which then undergo extensive remolding to create the major arteries which exit the heart. There are six aortic arches. First aortic arch contributes to the maxillary, hyoid and stapedial arteries. Second aortic arch contributes to the maxillary, hyoid and stapedial arteries. Third forms the common carotid and form the part of the proximal internal carotid artery. Fourth arch forms the right subclavian artery, and left arch forms the part of the arch of aorta. Fifth, either never forms or forms completely or regressive. Sixth, right arch forms the right pulmonary artery, left arch forms the left pulmonary artery and ductus arteriosus. Septation of the heart, that is the septum. Atrial septum. The septation of the primitive atrium involves the formation of two septae, the three holes, that is the foramina. Firstly, the septum primum forms and extends downwards towards the fused endocardial cushion to split the atrium into two chambers. Ostium primum is a hole present before the septum primum completes fusion with endocardial cushions. Before the ostium primum is closed, a second hole, that is the ostium secundum, appears within the septum primum. Following this second septum, the septum secundum grows with a hole known as foramina ovale, which is present. Presence of both ostium secundum and foramina ovale allows the right to left shunt to present in the developing heart. And this shunted blood goes to the left side of the heart, bypassing the non-functioning lungs. These are the septum primum, atrium, ventricles, interventricular septum. shown in the figure. Ventricular septum. Interventricular septum of the ventricle has two components. One is muscular and second is membranous. Muscular portion forms much of the septum and grows from the floor of the ventricle towards the fused endocardial cushion, but a small gap, the primary interventricular foramina, remains. This gap is filled by the membranous portion of the interventricular septum, which is comprised of connective tissue derived from the endocardial cushion. These are the in-short development of the heart in figure. From the primitive blood vessels, cardiogenic area, 18 days, how it grows. Now, anatomy of the heart. Heart is a muscular organ that pumps the blood around the body by circulating it through the circulatory or vascular system. It is wrapped in two layers. Serous sac is called as pericardium. The heart is shaped in a quadrangular pyramid and its apex is pointed toward the anterior thoracic wall. Heart has four chambers, shown in figure. Right atrium, which receives the blood from the veins and pumps it into the right ventricle. Right ventricle receives the blood from the right atrium and pumps it to the lung where it is loaded with the oxygen. Left atrium, which receives the oxygenated blood from the lungs and pumps it into the left ventricle. Whereas last chamber is the left ventricle, which is the strongest chamber, which pumps the oxygen-rich blood into the rest of the body through the aorta. Then right and left sides of the heart. Right hand side of the heart pumps oxygen, needing oxygen to the lungs. This blood goes to the lungs where it is loaded with oxygen and sent back to the heart. Oxygen-rich blood enters the left side of the heart, that is the atrium, and which goes to through the aorta to all over body. Blood which has delivered its oxygen to the muscles and tissues then returns back to the right side of the heart. Superior and inferior vena cava. These are the two large veins which enter the heart in the right side, that is the right atrium. Superior vena cava brings the blood from the head and arms of the upper body, whereas inferior vena cava brings the blood from the trunk and lower side of the body. Pulmonary arteries, right and left pulmonary arteries, which are branches of the main pulmonary trunk. Blood that needs to be oxygen is pumped it into the right ventricle and they take it to lungs from oxygenation. Pulmonary veins. Right and left pulmonary veins bring the oxygen-rich blood back from the lungs to the heart into the left atrium. Aorta is the largest artery of the body, which carries oxygen blood to the body from the left ventricle. There are valves in the right atrium and right ventricle. There is a tricuspid valve. Then mitral valve is between left atrium and left ventricle. Also, there is a pulmonary valve and aortic valve in the origin of the right and left ventricles. Coronary artery, we supply the blood to the heart. Now, very important is the fetal circulation. During pregnancy, the fetal circulatory system works differently than the birth. Fetus is connected by the umbilical cord to the placenta. Through the blood vessels in the umbilical cord, the fetus gets all needed nutrition and oxygen. The fetal circulatory system has three shunts. The purpose of these shunts is to bypass the non-functioning lungs and liver, and it bypasses the lung through the foramina of ovale. Ductus arteriosus moves blood from the pulmonary artery to the aorta. Oxygen and nutrients from the mother's blood are sent across the placenta to the fetus. The enriched blood flow through the umbilical cord to the liver, which splits into three branches. The blood that reaches is the inferior vena cava, is the major connected to the heart, and small amount of blood goes straight to the liver to give its oxygen and nutrients as it is required. Inside the fetal heart, blood enters the right atrium. Most of it flows through the foramina ovale into the left atrium, which then bypasses to the left ventricle. Blood then passes to the aorta. From aorta, blood is sent to the heart muscle itself and brain and arms. After circulating there, blood returns to the right atrium of the heart through superior vena cava. This less oxygenated blood is pumped from the right ventricle into the pulmonary artery. Most of the blood is shunted from the ductus arteriosus to the descending aorta, and this blood enters in the umbilical artery and flows to the placenta. This is shown in this figure is the fetal circulation from placenta, how the blood circulates. Now blood circulation after birth. The closure of ductus arteriosus, ductus venosus and foramina ovale give rise to the shifting of fetal circulation to the neonatal circulation. At birth, immediately the umbilical cord is clamped. Baby does not receive the oxygen and nutrients from the mother. With the first breath of the baby, lung starts expanding. As the lung expands, alveoli which are fluid filled, they start clearing. An increase in the baby's blood pressure and major reduction in the pulmonary pressure reduces the need for ductus arteriosus to shunt the blood, which helps in closing them. This gives rise to the rise in pressure in the left atrium of the heart and also lower pressure in the right atrium of the heart. And this stimulates the closure of the foramina ovale. This is the figure which is showing the circulation after birth because of closure of the foramina ovale. This is a comparison of fetal and neonatal circulation. Total gross difference is the open foramina ovale, ductus arteriosus, ductus venosus, and neonatal life it is closed. In short, the fetal shunts, which in adult life become the remnants, foramina ovale becomes the fossa ovalis in adult life. Ductus arteriosus makes itself as a ligamentous arteriosum. Ductus venosus becomes the ligamentum venosum. Umbilical venous vein becomes ligament of teres, that is hepatis. Now, congenital heart disease. Whenever there is a heart disease, there is a NADA's criteria to diagnose this congenital heart disease. Alexander Nadas, who has invented this, and it is divided into major and minor criteria. To note presence of congenital heart disease, there should be one major or two minor criteria which indicates the presence of congenital heart disease. Major criteria is the systolic murmur with thrill, that is the grade 3 or more, any diastolic murmur, cyanosis, and congestive cardiac failure. These are the four major criteria. And minor are the systolic murmur less than grade 3, that is without thrill, abnormal second heart sound, abnormal blood pressure, abnormal chest X-ray, and abnormal ECG. These are the 5 minor and 4 major criteria for the diagnosis of congenital heart disease. Now, congenital heart diseases are broadly grouped into two categories. Whenever there is a cyanosis is present, it is divided into cyanotic heart disease. When cyanosis is absent, it is the acyanotic congenital heart disease. Again, acyanotic congenital heart diseases are divided into two groups. One is the left to right shunts and second is the obstructive lesions. Left to right shunts are the ventricular septal defect, atrial septal defect, patent ductus arteriosus. And in obstructive lesions, there are three again: pulmonary valvular stenosis, that is congenital pulmonary stenosis, congenital aortic stenosis, and coarctation of aorta. Now we will see these 6 diseases in detail. Now first is the atrial septal defect, commonly known as ASD. It is a congenital heart defect in which blood flows between the two chambers of the atrium, right and left chamber, due to hole in that. Near about 5 to 10% of the children suffer from this ASD. Male as to female ratio is 1:2. It may be associated or it may be caused with Down syndrome, Epstein anomaly, fetal alcohol syndrome. Also, ASD is part of Holt-Oram syndrome and Lutten-Menger syndrome. There are types of this ASD. First is the commonest type is the ostium secundum type of ASD, which is most common type. Nearly 6 to 10% of all congenital heart diseases are in the ostium secundum type. This ASD usually arises from enlarged foramina ovale, which is present in the fetal life, helpful in the fetal circulation. Also, it may be due to the inadequate growth of the septum secundum or excessive absorption of the septum prima. In 10 to 20% of the cases of this ostium secundum type of ASD are associated with the mitral valve prolapse. In this ostium secundum, it is accompanied by the mitral valve stenosis. It is known as Lutten-Becker syndrome. Ostium secundum do not have significant symptoms through the early adulthood, and it may be like decreased exercise intolerance, easy fatigability, palpitations, and syncope. It has complications like pulmonary hypertension, right-sided heart failure, atrial fibrillation or flutter, stroke, and Eisenmenger physiology. Second type of ASD is patent foramina ovale. It is the remnant opening of the fetal foramina ovale, which is normally closes soon after the birth, but in 25% of the cases, it may remain. Persistent foramina ovale means it is normally not closed and opens under increased blood pressure, and it is linked to the stroke, sleep apnea, migraine with aura, and decompression sickness. No cause is established for this foramina ovale to remain open, and it may be hereditary or genetic. Treatment requires the anticoagulant and antiplatelet medications. Third type is ostium primum. More commonly, it is also called as atrioventricular septal defect, and this is less common than ostium secundum type and usually associated with Down syndrome. Fourth type of ASD is sinus venosus. These defects involve the venous inflow of either superior vena cava or inferior vena cava. Sinus venosus ASD involves superior vena cava makes up to 2 to 3% of interarterial communication. It is located at the junction of SVC and right atrium and frequently associated with the anomalous drainage of right-sided pulmonary veins into the right atrium. Common or single atrium. It is due to failure of development of embryologic components that contribute to the ASD or atrial septal disc complex, frequently associated with heteropraxis syndrome, where all the organs in the chest and abdomen are malrotated. Sixth type of ASD is mixed. The interarterial septum can be divided into 5 septal zones, and if the defects involve 2 or more of the septal zones, then the defect is termed as mixed atrial septal defect. Complications of ASD are cardiac arrhythmia, right-sided heart failure, pulmonary hypertension, Eisenmenger syndrome, frequent respiratory infections, decompression sickness, paradoxical embolus, and migraine. If you physically examine child with ASD, there is a systolic ejection murmur, which is due to the pulmonary valve. There is a fixed splitting of the second heart sound occurs, which is very typical of the wide and thick split of the S2. ECG shows prolonged PR interval. It suggests of the first degree heart block. If it is primum ASD, then there is left axis deviation. If it is secundum, then there is right axis deviation. Chest X-ray shows increase in pulmonary blood flow, cardiomegaly, which is right atrium and right ventricular type. Echocardiography determines the size of the shunt. Natural history of atrial septal defect. 87% of the cases of the ASD closes spontaneously. If it is less than 3 millimeters, by 18 months, 100% closure occurs. If the size is 3 to 8 millimeters, by 18 months, 80% of the closure occurs. If the size is more than 8 millimeters, it rarely closes spontaneously. Very important is ASD, it normally closes in most of the cases. Now, second congenital heart defect, that is the cyanotic disease, is ventricular septal defect or VSD. It is a defect in the ventricular septum where the wall dividing right and left ventricle is deficient or hole is there. It is the most common congenital cardiac anomaly. 30 to 60% of all the congenital heart defect it is seen. There are 4 types. Membranous type, it is mostly located in the apical region. Muscular type, it is in the inlet region. Trabecular type, it may be central, apical, or marginal. And infundibular, that is the outlet. During the ventricular contraction or a systole, some of the blood from the left ventricle leaks into the right ventricle, which passes into the lung, again re-enters the left ventricle and pulmonary veins and left atrium. This has 2 net effects. First, circuitous refluxing of blood causes volume overload of the left ventricle. Second, because left ventricle normally has much higher systolic blood pressure than the right ventricle, the leakage of blood into the right ventricle therefore elevates the right ventricular pressure and volume, causing pulmonary hypertension, which is very common in VSD. Types we have just seen: subaortic, perimembranous, inlet, muscular. With small VSD, child does not have any symptom. With large VSD, there is a delayed growth and development, repeated pulmonary infection and congenital heart failure. Also, long-standing cases, there may be pulmonary hypertension and decreased activity. You can see the pansystolic murmur with three normal heart sounds, but larger VSD has a parasternal heave and displays apex beat. ECG in small VSD is normal. Moderate VSD, there is a left ventricular hypertrophy. Large defect shows combined ventricular hypertrophy. X-ray shows cardiomegaly, and echocardiography is helpful to detect the size. Complications: ventricular septal aneurysm, aortic regurgitation, then vegetations on the right side. It is there. Now, the spontaneous closure of the VSD occurs in 30 to 40% of the cases in membranous type and in muscular type of the VSD at 6 months of the age. Treatment either conservative or surgical. Smaller VSD which closes on their own, you have to treat it conservatively, and larger VSD they have to close with the surgery. There is intracardiac technique or transcatheter technique. Now, third one is the patent ductus arteriosus. Patent ductus arteriosus normally occurs due to the non-closure of the ductus arteriosus at birth. This allows a portion of oxygenated blood from the left heart back to the lungs to the left ventricle. There is a dyspnea and continuous machinery murmur. There is cardiomegaly, bounding pulse, widened pulse, increased cardiac output, increased systolic pressure, poor growth, differential cyanosis. There is cyanosis in the lower extremity, not in upper extremity. It occurs commonly with the preterm birth, cardiac, congenital rubella syndrome, chromosomal anomalies like Down syndrome, genetic disorders like Char syndrome, and it is diagnosed by echocardiography and electrocardiography, chest X-ray. Treatment commonly given is the indomethacin or ibuprofen immediately after birth, help to close this PDA, and surgical ligation can be done. Now, pulmonary stenosis is the obstructive lesion. Congenital pulmonary stenosis is the obstructive lesion. Pulmonary artery carries the blood to the lungs where it is oxygenated and which in returns again to the left atrium. So left atrium. Pulmonary stenosis is an obstruction of blood from the right ventricle to the pulmonary artery. It results from a narrowing or stenosis at several points at or near the pulmonary valve. It may be valvular, subvalvular, that is infundibular or supravalvular. Mild pulmonary stenosis children are asymptomatic. Moderate PS as dyspnea or AG fatigability. Severe pulmonary stenosis, child may have exertional chest pain and cardiac failure. In this pulmonary stenosis, patient has right ventricular hypertrophy. Sometimes there may be systemic cyanosis. In severe cases, cardiac failure occurs. Treatment is percutaneous balloon valvoplasty. Now, congenital aortic stenosis. Narrowing of the exit of the left ventricle of the heart is known as congenital aortic stenosis. It may occur at the aortic wall or above or below this level. Mild aortic stenosis is asymptomatic, but severe aortic stenosis give rise to the chest pain, syncope, and sudden death. Also, it affects the growth of the child. It requires a surgical valvotomy. Now, very important last acyanotic congenital heart disease is coarctation of aorta. It is a congenital condition where the aorta is narrow, usually in the area where the ductus arteriosus, which is present in the neonatal fetal life, later on it becomes the ligamentum arteriosus, where it inserts. It is 8 to 10% of total CSD, common in boys, mostly associated with Turner syndrome, and if it is 85% of the cases of coarctation of aorta, there is a bicuspid aortic valve which give rise to the poor feeding, dyspnea, poor weight gain, then circulatory failure also. Here in figure, there are three types are shown about the coarctation of aorta: pre-ductal coarctation, ductal type coarctation, and post-ductal. In pre-ductal coarctation, narrowing is proximal to the ductus arteriosus. Blood flow to the aorta, that is distal to the narrowing, is dependent on the ductus arteriosus. Therefore, severe coarctation can be life-threatening. Pre-ductal coarctation results when the intracardiac anomaly during fetal life decreases the blood flow to the left side of the heart, leading to the hypoplastic development of the aorta. And 5% of these cases have Turner syndrome. Now, ductal coarctation occurs due to narrowing at the insertion of ductus arteriosus, and it appears when the ductus arteriosus closes. Postductal coarctation is distal to the insertion of ductus arteriosus, common in adults, and it is associated with the notching of the ribs, hypertension in upper extremities, weak pulses in the lower extremities. It is very, very characteristic. Treatment for symptomatic neonates, you have to give the prostaglandin E1 infusion. For hypertension, give the beta blockers. And of course, it is the stent placement at the coarctation of site, that is the surgical correction, it will be done. Now, in short, we have seen this embryology, anatomy, and physiology of the heart, along with a cyanotic congenital heart disease, that is ASD, VSD, and PDA, and obstructive lesions like pulmonary stenosis, aortic stenosis, and coarctation of aorta. Remaining part we will see in the next part.